There's a lot that could impress you about the all-new Honda Prologue EV. True, it's got class-leading passenger space and clean, thoughtful design and intuitive technology. But what really sets the Prologue apart from the competition is that it's more than an EV. It's a Honda. Honda, the power of dreams. Visit honda.com/prologue to learn more.
A milestone moment creates a beautiful memory for years to come. And now's the time to celebrate it with 35% off select pieces at Blue Nile. Blue Nile makes your most valuable moments sparkle with jewelry gifts of the highest quality offered at the best price. You'll also find expert guidance and the level of convenience you'd expect from the world's leading online jeweler. Right now, take advantage of 35% off select pieces at BlueNile.com. That's BlueNile.com. BlueNile.com.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello, welcome to AI Scouted on Anfield Index Pro. I'm Dave Hendrick, joined as always by Mr. Karl Matchett. How are you, sir?
Not too bad at all, thank you. Just about recovered from, Euro stuff.
Yes, indeed. Well, we're a long way past that now. We're almost to the point of the Olympics being on top of us, which are less entertaining. We've had the Euro under-19s kick off, and the group stages are now over, so we're at the semi-final stage with them. But the Euros and the Copa were the primary international tournaments this summer, and a reason, I think, for a lot of delayed business for a lot of clubs. But what we're going to do today is go team by team through the Premier League and, for you, react to some of their business, because obviously you've been keeping yourself occupied with other stuff and might have missed one or two. But also, at the end, I think we should have a little chat about Liverpool and why maybe there hasn't been any business so far. So let's just go alphabetically. Arsenal thus far have actually done nothing. The David Raya deal from last summer, which was a loan with an obligation to buy, became a permanent deal. Otherwise, they're going to be the same team. Now, Calafiori might get done. It looks like it will get done, but as yet it's not done. It's taking a very long time to get across the line, which potentially suggests that Arsenal are having to do some wrangling, maybe getting a low upfront fee because they don't have the cash maybe this summer. But are you surprised that they haven't done more, or are you surprised that there aren't links to, let's just say, a striker?
I would have thought there would be a forward quite high on their list. That's what I would say. I absolutely cannot tell you what rumours there have or haven't been, so you're going to have to guide the conversation on that. As I said to you just before we came on air, basically up until we're recording Tuesday, so up until Monday, I hadn't looked at anything domestic football whatsoever. And so a few of these that we'll go through, I kind of had to double take and double read and make sure it was what I was reading was right. I thought Arsenal would be quite quick in with a forward, because I think that was maybe the one weaker area that you would say from last year. A few of the times when performances weren't great, other teams just bring on different forwards and someone has something. Like, you look at Liverpool, for example. We had a period last year where we would just bring on Diogo Jota or start Diogo Jota because nobody else was playing well, and he would score. And then he got injured and it had to be somebody else. And Arsenal had Trossard for that for a little bit of time, but it wasn't prolonged with him, and Martinelli's form wasn't great across the season. So I think that would be where I think Arsenal would be definitely keen to strengthen. I'm not really sure where else they would go. You know, we look at left back as being a relative weakness of Arsenal, but as you pointed out a few times last year, they have loads of options there, including one who obviously back in Timber. So I don't think it's massively surprising just because of the reason you highlighted there, because of the summer tournaments, that maybe deals haven't been done quickly, but maybe the areas that they're looking at so far, I mean, like, obviously they haven't upgraded anything because Raya was already there, and they've lost a couple, let's say, who did give at least a bit of squad depth, even if they weren't particularly utilised. I would say probably with Arsenal, I was a little bit surprised that they didn't bring Nuno Tavares back into the fold. I thought maybe they might do.
I think him and Lokonga just have to be marked down as the two of Edu's flops. They're going to lose money on them because the options to buy they've put in both loans are below what they paid for them. Calafiori will add another left-back option. Obviously, he's another centre-back. They'll be playing with 4 centre-backs again next year. You'd question where that then leaves Jurriën Timber. Does he start at right-back? Does that mean 50 million Ben White becomes a squad player? I think that's entirely possible. Potentially, Ben White could play defensive midfield. It does seem like that's a position they'd like to upgrade, but they would need to sell Thomas Partey first. See, they've spent a huge amount of money over the last few years, and they've only had one season of Champions League money, so it's possible that just their PSR situation means that they can't spend a huge amount this summer. That was suggested to me by a couple of people that have kind of tracked their spending over the last 3 years. They're well in excess of 600 million. And like I said, they've only had the 1 year of Champions League football. And I do wonder with the lack of a striker thus far, because they were linked with Xerxes and 34 million wasn't a big fee. You do wonder if Arteta has maybe been told, well, look, you signed Gabriel Jesus. You told us he was the answer. And then you signed Kai Havertz to play in midfield. And you've told us since he can't play in midfield that you need him as a striker. So you've got to, and unless you sell one of them, we're not going to fund another striker. And neither of them seem to have any intention of leaving, particularly Gabriel Jesus, who, you know, there's already talk from the Brazilian media that he's looking at next season as a huge bounce back after a disappointing season last year. So it might just be a case where the Arsenal board are saying, look, you've spent all this money, you've built a whole team. Now it's on you to win one of the major trophies, because we cannot just continue to give you 200 million every single summer, especially when you're already in the process of replacing players that you signed for us.
I've got Dan Morgan here on the pod. Say hi, Dan.
Hey, how's it going today?
It's going good, man. Tell us who you are and what you do.
I'm Dan Morgan. I'm an attorney and a managing partner at Morgan & Morgan, which is America's largest injury law firm.
That's pretty awesome. I think I saw a billboard of yours recently that said 20 billion won. 20 billion is an insane number.
Yeah, 20 billion recovered. It's actually, I think, somewhere north, probably closer to 22, 23 after this year. And each year we get bigger and badder and our army grows. So the number will hopefully keep getting bigger and bigger as time goes on.
Awesome. So how does someone get in contact with Morgan & Morgan? What would I do if I got into an accident?
Probably the easiest way is dialing pound law. That's pound 529 from your cell phone. We are always open. Our call center is always waiting to take your call. 24/7, 365.
Wow. Dan Morgan from Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm. Thanks for coming by the show.
Thanks for having me.
Visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's going to be an ongoing conversation with Arsenal and with Arteta in particular when players don't do the job expected of them. Now, obviously, you've got to accept that from where they were to get to where they want to be. Some players are going to come in who, don't make that jump sort of thing. You have to sign for each players to get each step. So I think it's fine that you outgrow certain players, but the bigger concern is the ones who never quite actually become a success anyway, and they've paid decent money for. Those are the ones where you will have to question Arteta, because they've made it really, really clear that he's involved in that he gets to decide on that he gets to pick out the ones that he wants, and then they go and try and get the deals done. So it will be something that comes back to him one way or another.
Right, let's move on. Aston Villa. Karl, I have to say, I love their window thus far. I think they've had an absolutely brilliant window so far. So going out the door, Douglas Luiz gone to Juventus. As we speak, Moussa Diaby is having a medical in Saudi Arabia. Tim Oribunam is gone, Morgan Sanson is gone, and Viljami Sinisalo is gone. In the door, Ross Barkley, Enzo Barancia, Lewis Dobbin, Samuel Illing Jr., Jayden Philligan, Cameron Archer, Ian Matson, and Amadou Onana. Now, I think Matson's a huge upgrade over the left backs they have. I think Onana and Kamara is going to be a monstrous pairing. I think Barancia will be a really good backup in the central midfield area. I think they've improved in midfield overall. And while none of the attackers they've brought in are right now of the level of Moussa Diaby, Diaby lost his place for a large chunk of last season, was very hit and miss. And they've now added 4 new options in Archer, Philligan, Illing Jr. and Dobbin. So I think depth-wise, they get better in attack. And they're only looking at a net spend in the region of about 15 million for this window so far. So it leaves them in a position to go and get a centre-back, which I think is the last need for them. I think they've had an absolutely smashing window. I think the signings of Onana and Matson in particular are absolutely exceptional.
So talk to me a little bit about Aston Villa's dealings here for Philligan and Cameron Archer. There's obviously playing catch-up here. They brought them back, both of them, a year after selling them. They had buyback clauses. I think Archer, they actually made money on because Sheffield United were relegated, as far as I saw. So they bought him back for less than they sold him for.
Yes.
I presume he still has no future, and this is just
No, by all accounts, this was a part of a long-term plan for them. That the reason they included the buyback clauses was because there was an intention to bring him back with him and Philligan and potentially the younger Ramsey, Aaron, who went to Burnley. That the idea was, we're going to sell you, you'll get more games, you'll develop, and then we're going to buy you back. But what we need to do now is sell you because you represent pure profit for us in terms of PSR. So, by all accounts, this was part of the plan. Right after the end of last season, they were very public about the fact they were going to go and get Cameron Archer back. He's someone I think they rate quite highly. So I do think they're going to play a part. And guys just mentioned, it does look like John Duran might go as well. So if Duran goes, Archer becomes the backup to Ollie Watkins, or in theory the backup to Ollie Watkins. He could play with Watkins as well. No, I think this was part of what they had hoped, that these players would move, develop. And I think in Philligan's case, he had a tremendous season last year for Hull. Archer obviously had a tough enough time playing in a dreadful team, but I did think he showed flashes of quality and showed that he can play in the Premier League. So I think they've done really well, especially the fact that, like you said, they've gotten Archer back for less than they actually got from last summer. They made a 3 million profit on that deal. I think they've spent 8 million more on Philligan than they sold him for, because I think they sold him for 5 and paid 13 to bring him back. But I think based on the season he had, and the fact that there were other clubs, including Ipswich, willing to pay up to 20 million for him, but they had a discount because of the sell-on clause that they could remove. I think it's a pretty good price.
I think the deals that they've done are pretty good. They look pretty strong. Matson obviously is the biggest outlay. I think is fine because he's a very good player with a really good ceiling. I assume, like you say, he's coming in to play left back, but he does also give them the option to play much, much higher upfield, or if they want to play more of a defensive left back and then him against bigger, better sides, or better right sides at least, that's another option for them. I don't really see anything that they've lost here other than, like, Luis was very, very good at driving on from deep and either shooting or creating chances from that, and obviously his set pieces as well. I don't really see that they've lost anything else. I don't really know a lot about Amari Kellyman, who they've sold for what looks like pretty huge money, to be honest.
I forgot about him. That would mean, given his sale, they'd actually be in the profit on this window once the Diaby deal goes through.
Yeah, I mean, it looks a pretty solid all-round deal, to be perfectly honest. That's Illing Jr. I don't know about the other one who's coming from Juve. I think he was out on loan last year.
He was good Frosinone last year.
So I don't know too much about him other than like holding midfielder basically. But Illing Jr. I think looks a pretty good player. He's still really young as well.
And he can play loads of different positions.
Yeah, I've seen him left wing and left back, I think.
And he's played right back. He's played both wing back positions. He's played right wing. He's played a bit of midfield. He's a bit like
Cole Holder.
Yeah, do you know?
It's pretty good in terms of sizing up the squad as well, considering there'll be Champions League, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't see Lewis Dobbin playing huge amounts, I'll be honest.
No, I wouldn't be surprised if he was loaned out. It's very clear that the Lewis Dobbin and Tim Morgbunum deals were for the purpose of accounting, but I think they also paid a little bit more for Maatsen than perhaps they needed to, and then got a bigger fee for Kellyman than they should have. But all in all, I just think they've smashed this window so far, and there's still 5 weeks left, so there's nearly 6 weeks left, so it's very possible that they'll add more. There's just talk of a centre-back coming in. There's talk that Matty Cash could go. John Duran, could well go, and then we'll see what else they do. But for now, I think they've had by far the best window of any Premier League team. Moving on to Bournemouth.
Just one word for you very quickly on 32 years old now, Philippe Coutinho.
Yeah. Back to Vasco da Gama on loan. Look, Phil was obviously incredible for us. And it's fair to say his career has not panned out the way he would have hoped in the 6.5 years or whatever it is since he left. Is it 6.5 years? 6.5 years. However, he has won 3 league titles since leaving. He has won a Champions League since leaving.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
The Champions League I can kind of get on board with because he did play a decent squad role for Bayern, but do you think he takes much out of the titles themselves?
Well, I would imagine he does for the 18-19 title because he played 34 of 38 league games. He was pretty much ever present in the 17-18 title run-in when he joined, because he joined in January, and he played 18 games and scored 8 goals. I'd imagine he takes quite a bit from the titles at Bayern, or at Barca rather. Even in the Bayern title, he plays 23 of 34 games, scores 8 goals. He was important at times in the Champions League run. He did win 3 league titles. He won a Champions League. That's more than we've won since he departed. And he's made an awful lot more money than he would have had he stayed with us, because he went to Barca on a huge contract. And he got to live in Barcelona, which is where he wanted to live. You know? It's easy for us to say, oh, the grass isn't always greener, but you don't always know what type of grass someone's looking for. And maybe he just wanted to have the best lifestyle possible. Maybe he wanted his family to live in Spain. And he's made more money. He's won more trophies. And yeah, look, the Villa thing didn't work out. The loan was good. The permanent deal was not. He went to Qatar. I don't know how he did, because who cares? And sure, it's disappointing. But at the end of the day, he's 32 years of age now. So if he's happy to go and play in Qatar or go back and play in Brazil, as long as he's happy, then what about it? Like, yes, he could have been a legend at Liverpool, but would he have won 3 titles in a Champions League? No, because we wouldn't have been able to buy Virgil or Alisson.
No, I don't think at any point is it about him staying at Liverpool, to be honest. I just think that the talent that he had and how good a player he was, it's just a shame it's not amounted to more. That's all, wherever it was.
Yeah, no, and that's totally fair. And, he was brought in there ostensibly to replace Neymar, and, well, he won a Champions League, but just didn't win it for them. So...
won it against them instead.
And that's the funniest part of it. But he's not the only one. I mean, Ousmane Dembele was bought with the other part of the Neymar money, and I think it's fair to say he was an even bigger disaster there than Phil was. So, look, it is what it is, unfortunately. Moving on. Bournemouth. The Sinistera deal made permanent. Unal deal made permanent. They've signed a young goalkeeper called Alex Paulson, who's from New Zealand, and is actually with the New Zealand Olympic team, if anyone wants to watch them when they play. And they brought in Daniel Jebison on a free from Sheffield United. And I think that's a little bit of an under-the-radar one, because I do quite like him. I think he's a talented player. But he missed all of last season, or most of last season, with an illness, so we'll see. But they haven't really done anything to date.
Yeah, I guess the questions over Bournemouth, I think, are still going to be about consistency more than anything else. Because they had a really decent base last season in terms of the attacking options that they had, and after the first sort of 2 months of the season, a pretty good setup tactically, and they were working really well. A bit of a flop towards the end of the season, but I think they're in a good position. I wouldn't say that they're a club that, if they don't do any business at all, standing still is equivalent to going backwards for them, because they have quite a new group overall. I think there's more development to be had from them, so I think they're fine. Obviously they would be better if they would maybe add probably a midfielder. Maybe we get to see a bit more Tyler Adams this season, hopefully. But in general, I think another quite aggressive, quite strong midfielder would still benefit them. But yeah, I'm not too concerned for Bournemouth as it stands.
No, me neither. And I assume they will get business done later in the window. Brentford then. So Igor Thiago, that deal was done months ago. He's the only one coming in. And David Raya going out. And again, that deal was done last summer. So Brentford, as things stand, they still have to sort out the Ivan Toney situation. They've been linked to a couple of other players. They could use at least one at centre-back and one in midfield. I assume they'll get their business done, but for now, it's all very quiet with them.
And maybe the bigger question with them is, again, same as we had last year, that it just sometimes look like they need a bit of a refresh, a bit of a different, not necessarily approach, but yeah, a voice, a way, a process, whatever it is. I'd be more concerned for them than Bournemouth, let's put it that way. And I don't know huge volumes of Igor Thiago, so can't comment too much on him. But yeah, losing quite a few squad players there who have not played first choice roles, but been regular bench options. Xander Baptiste, Samar Ghoddos. Well, Ghoddos released and rejoined again a couple of years ago, didn't he? So who knows what that happens again. Strakosha as another keeper option has gone. Angelini gone. Charlie Good gone as well. No, you didn't rate him as a defender, but he was still there for them and played a few times each year. So depth has gone and hasn't been replaced as much as anything else.
Exactly. So next up, Brighton. No notable outgoings coming in the door. a Mario Cozier-Jubri, a young winger for Arsenal, Malik Yalkoi, a young box-to-box midfielder from Gothenburg, who's been compared to N'Golo Kante, Ibrahim Osman, a winger from Nordsjælland in Denmark. That one was done in January or February. Mats Wiefer in from Feyenoord, and Yankuba Minta in from the Toon. I really, really like what they've done so far. I think Yalkoi, Minta, those are exceptionally good gets at the prices they paid. I think Wiefer's a really good get for them. I think that's the right club for him as well, and I'm hopeful we'll see him and Baliba play together a fair bit. They've obviously changed the manager as well, but this is just a really well-run, well-oiled machine at Brighton.
Yeah, it follows a plan, doesn't it, in terms of the signings that they've made. It follows a setup. It follows the way you expect them to play in terms of like midfield options there and so on. So I think it's more of the same to expect from them, even though there will be a change in technical and tactical approach from the coach and staff. So I think this the same as usual with them. Just kind of really looking forward to see how they put it together. I think Mats Wiefer is a really good addition. That should add a little bit more, probably positional discipline at times. Pretty economical ball use, but aggressive player, really nice, can get about the pitch a lot. Cozier-Jubri, I don't know, but I've been told yesterday by a couple of Arsenal watchers of the younger players, very, very good player, very high ceiling for him. So look forward to that one. I can't believe that you've let Adam Lallana leave and say no major outgoings. So what kind of disrespect is that? That's terrible form, Dave. Come on.
The most prevalent empty shirt in all of English football for the last 10 years. Yeah, 10 years. Absolutely shocking. But Southampton have brought him home where he started off. He'll coach in their academy. And I do actually think he could make a decent coach.
As long as he doesn't get any of the kids in a headlock, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe as long as the kids don't insult him by, being better than the footballers.
Alzate is gone as well. That's the only other squad name you'd say, really.
He is, yeah. He's out of contract and nobody's picked him up as yet. So we'll see what happens with him. Right, Chelsea. I don't even know what to make of this window. So they've sold Ian Maatson. Lewis Hall's deal became permanent at Newcastle. Amari Hutchinson went to Ipswich. They're not players they had last season. They did lose Thiago Silva. He'd been a liability for a couple of years, and they released Hakim Ziyech because nobody was willing to give them any money for him. They've brought in Tosin on a free. I really like that one as a squad defender. Mark Gui from Barcelona, who's an 18-year-old striker. Caleb Wiley from Atlanta, who's a 19-year-old left-back who's set to go to Strasbourg. Renato Viega, 20-year-old defensive midfielder. Omari Kellyman, an 18-year-old attacking midfielder who, prior to this, was rumoured to be going on loan to a club in League One, which will tell you that maybe Chelsea have overpaid just a little bit with the 19 million fee. And then Kieran Dewsbury-Hall, who I like, and was Leicester's best player last year and probably the best player in the Championship. But Karl, none of them are needle-moving starters for them. I think Dewsbury-Hall and Tosin are the only players that will be involved in the senior squad. And I don't think either of them are top 4 calibre starters. I think they'd be very good squad players. But I feel like Chelsea, there's been a lot of noise around them. They've brought in 6 players thus far. I don't think they've improved their actual team that'll take the field game after game, unless the manager just decides, well, Dewsbury-Hall knows how I want to play, so I'm putting him in even if I've got a better player sat on the bench.
So am I right in thinking Esteval joins them next summer?
Next summer, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so they paid big money for him. The ones that you mentioned who have left is the notable thing here. Lewis Hall, Ian Maatson and Amari Hutchinson. That's over 80 million quid of homegrown players. That's going to be big for them. They can still do whatever they want this summer in terms of expenditure, like the ones that they brought in so far, maybe overpaying for Kellyman, but probably for the same reason as they got pretty decent money for Matson from the same club, obviously. So Vega, my Chelsea supporting friend says people have been unimpressed with his performances so far, and the best thing about him is that he plays everywhere. So I don't watch FC Basel very often. Probably about 8 years ago might be the last time. So apparently he plays everywhere. Fullbacks, centre-back cover, defensive mids, box-to-box, whatever. So maybe that is exactly what they've got there. They've got themselves a couple of squad options in him and Dewsbury Hall who are going to be able to allow changes, or who are going to work very hard and show the rest of the team what they need to do to be in the team. I can't really say it. You like Dewsbury Hall a lot more than I do. Like, I think he's fine. I don't think he's great. I just don't see him as, No,
I think he's a squad player. Like, I do. I think he's a squad player.
I have to agree. I think Tosun probably comes in and plays because he's dependable and reliable. And as much as Chelsea have still got 730 centre-backs, none of them are that. Like, none of them are that, either because of performance level or because of fitness levels. Like, certainly you could pick out 2 defenders at Chelsea and say they're better than Tosun, or they've played better than Tosun previously. But are you going to say that Wes Fofana is better than Tosun when he's barely played for, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is? There's a lot of players at Chelsea still. Don't know if they've loaned out some of them from, last year, or how much we're going to see of Romeo Lavia this year, for example, or if Carney Chukwuemeka has a role in the new manager's system or whatever. But I don't see anybody here who is going to send them from somewhere between 5th and 8th to somewhere between 3rd and 5th comfortably. There's no addition of that. So the only thing that's going to do that so far is better organisation, better work rate of the team, better combinations. I'm talking here about either centre-back partnerships or full-back to winger partnerships, which they really didn't get started with last year at all, between James's injury and Chilwell's injury, and the fact they weirdly didn't use Malo Gusto until about November, hardly. So there's a lot to sort out in this Chelsea squad still. I think it's possibly for the best that they haven't done loads and loads of incoming deals, like in terms of big star names. I still expect that they'll sign another couple this summer just because of that massive influx that they've got from those 3 sales. But yeah, there's not a, as you say, a needle mover there. Mark Yu is supposed to be quite good in terms of a movement, and is powerful and is really quick over the first few yards. That kind of a striker, not a play around the box kind of one. He might be one that they look to come on and lead the line later on in matches, rather than Jackson, who sits a bit deeper, and all the other attacking midfielders who can play just off a forward and that kind of thing.
Yeah, but he's 18. He's never played senior football. So, like, what does that look like? On Renato Vega, he came through the Sporting Academy and had a loan at Augsburg, and I saw him play a couple of times when he was there. And I thought he looked a couple of years short of being ready to play in the Bundesliga. And then he went to Basel. He had 1 season there. And I asked someone that watches Swiss football, and they said they couldn't believe that a Premier League team, any Premier League team, had brought him in to play this season, because he's nowhere near ready. That at times in the Swiss league, he looked like he was struggling to keep up. And they also couldn't believe the price. They said at the moment, like, he's about a £5 million player, because he's young, raw, doesn't really have a position. Like, he'll play centre-back one game, then be left side midfielder the next game. Then he could be a defensive midfielder, he could be a left-back. But nobody seems to have ever taken the time to say to him, look, this is what you're going to be, and this is where we're going to work. It's almost like he's just told to go out and run around in a certain position, and he plays exactly the same way, whether he's at centre-back or whether he's left midfield. So if he's at centre-back, you'll find him on the left side of the midfield at times.
Hey guys, it's Eddie Gibbs from Anfield Index here. I hope you're enjoying this podcast, and I'm sorry to call time on the show before it ends. In the current climate, it's tougher than ever before to offer podcasts for free. At Anfield Index, we produce over 75 free shows every month, which I'm confident is unparalleled in the LFC sphere. Whilst we'd love to offer everything for free, the production costs now make this impossible. That said, we don't want to follow the model of other channels and lock all of our content behind a paywall. So what we've decided to do is to continue offering every show for free, but cut that offering to 30 minutes on our longer shows. So to get all of our shows in full and enjoy the best of everything we have to offer, we really hope you'll consider supporting the channel and signing up at AnfieldIndexPro.com. For about the price of 1 cup of coffee, you'll get every podcast in full with 0 ads. You'll also get access to our LFC VIP community, where you can enjoy live podcasts, engage with our podcasters, and chat with other Reds in real time. So that website again, AnfieldIndexPro.com. Join today.
Sports Social Podcast Network.